The whole LeBron James team will eventually figure it out, and that the Lakers will figure it out with Russ. I don't buy it. I don't believe in anything that I've seen from this Lakers team. And when we're talking about them figuring out, we're talking about them being a team that is good enough to make it to the Western Conference Finals, to make it out of the West, to win an NBA title. I just don't see it. I don't see any way that this team does it, because watching Russell Westbrook play basketball next to LeBron James and Anthony Davis is a bloody chore. And it doesn't make sense. And the roster they've put around them, for me, doesn't make sense. Russ is shooting, and I know it's early season, but it just kind of encapsulates how ugly it's been. 22% from three. He's shooting 58% from the free throw line. He can't figure out whether he's supposed to have the ball in his hands, because when he does, especially in late game situations, he always seems to make the wrong decision. And when he doesn't have the ball in his hands, he's standing on the perimeter as a complete non-threat. And if you've got AD who refuses to play the five, so you've got AD, a big, and Russell Westbrook on the court together, and then you kind of need Kent Bazemore there because he's the only adequate wing defender, there's just no shooting.
I see what you're saying, and I knew this was coming, because as predictable as me talking about Memphis is just as predictable that you would throw some Russell Westbrook hate in our
It's not even hate.
But for me, I look at this team and I'm like, there is a light, and there is an offense which works really, really well with all those players on the court. They're just not playing it yet, and they're absolutely going to make the playoffs. I'm willing to bet my house on that, because you can sit LeBron James and Russell Westbrook will get you wins.
Yep.
That is what you're bringing him in for, basically, with LeBron aging. But with Anthony Davis playing on the weak side, that's where it has to start. LeBron and Russ are both good role men in a pick and roll situation, and they're both pretty smart pick and roll players with the ball in their hands. I see this working, and I see an offense which is going to be really, really hard to guard. But
yeah,
they're not playing it right now.
It's clunky for sure, but I think, to tie in what HP was saying, when LeBron James sits out games, Russell Westbrook will be able to get him off the line. I think that can be instructive. Start Westbrook first 5 minutes of the game, last 4 minutes of the game, and the rest of the time he's on the court when LeBron and AD aren't. Get him to run the second unit. I don't know if his pride and ego can handle that, but that to me makes sense given LeBron's age. Reduce his minutes. I'm pretty sure LeBron's still top 5, top 10 in minutes played per game, which is wild because he's ancient in basketball terms. So you've got two players that were the cornerstones for the Lakers title, not last season, season before, and now you add a former MVP. For sure, he isn't who he was when he won that MVP, but he can still get it done. He started last year at the Wizards really slow before he took that Wizards team on a run, basically on his back for sure. Beal was excellent, but I don't think they make that. They made the playing game last year, right?
Yep.
Yeah. I don't think they make it to that stage without Westbrook. And for sure, again, it's clunky now. But if you remove Westbrook from this lineup, do you think the Lakers' chances of going to the NBA Finals improve? I don't think so.
Well, this is where I kind of wanted to throw it to you guys. And we kind of have this alternate reality where the Lakers follow through with the Buddy Hield trade. Are they a better team with Buddy Hield?
Oh, I'm not touching it.
Like an overall team, are they a better team? And obviously
he hits a lot of threes.
They
That's
wouldn't
what
have had
Buddy
to
Hield
pick,
can do.
They wouldn't have had to give away some of the other pieces that they did in the Rush trade. Potentially could have spent a bit more money on another point guard, for example.
But that's the thing, right? Like you're gonna have to give up something. You're giving up Montrezl Harrell for sure. You probably need to give up KCP to make the money work. So you're losing your defense anyway. Kuzma seems to be the chip that people want because he's young enough that people can be like, oh yeah, we might be able to mold him into something. So I don't see how you're getting that trade done without by keeping any of the pieces. So I still think you're giving up a fair package to bring in a guy like Buddy Hield, who is one of the worst defenders in the league.
And has been on the move for 4 years.
Look, Russ is as well, but Russ is very physical.
Competitor. And
a mad competitor and will crash the boards. Buddy Hield doesn't do any of those things. Buddy Hield shoots lots of threes.
I watch what the Lakers are currently. And maybe this is unfair because it is so soon and they're going to have to figure some stuff out. I think the only way they do eventually figure it out, though, and this is sort of what I don't believe, is AD being willing to just play the 5. And maybe he'll do that in the playoffs. And maybe he's not willing to do that in the regular season. But I don't know how it works without him at the 5.
What about, and like, you know, LeBron is still very, very good and he's still very, very athletic. But like I've been talking about, maybe there's a world where we start seeing LeBron move inside a little bit more, like we saw with Jordan towards the end of his career, like we saw with Kobe. Maybe he starts playing the post a little bit more. He's smart enough to be able to defend a 5. He's big. Yeah. Can we play LeBron for all intents and purposes?
You
at
think
5?
LeBron's going to play the 5?
I think like it's possible, right?
I mean, he could. LeBron more than anyone ever.
What is Davis's problem with playing the 5? He has to mark the big guy.
Yeah,
he's pouty. That's his.
Can
problem.
LeBron mark the big guy?
Yeah, but LeBron won't. I don't think he puts himself in that position. And like when you have AD, who is a literal 7-footer, it's like play him there. Like what are we doing? Like just get over yourself.
I think we're wildly underestimating how smart and how competitive LeBron James
LeBron
is.
Definitely can play the 5.
But if he goes, the only way we can make this work because Davis is being a little bitch is I mark Jokic in the Western Conference Finals because we're playing Denver. I mean, Rudy Gobert's not doing anything on the offensive end. What LeBron can be the anchor for a defense. I think he can. It would require a little more physicality, but way less running, way less effort than defending the best wing every night.
If they did go down that route, it wouldn't be until the playoffs, right?
No, he's not doing that in the regular season.
No, I'm saying for
them to win
8 to 10 minute spurts, where you need a high octane offense, and you can go Russ at the 1 in a screen and roll with LeBron, or you can go LeBron and Davis on the perimeter, Russ setting screens, which we saw in Houston. It worked. Like, to me, there's just too many ways that this offense can figure it out for me to say that, like, they're never going to figure it out.
Yeah, there's too much talent there. Like, I think you might be right. The Lakers, we might look back on them and compare them to that 2012 team where they got Dwight Howard and Steve Nash and thought at the start of the season, it's like, how can they win? And halfway through it, it's like, I mean, we thought, how can they lose? And halfway through the season, it's like, how dumb were we to even think they could win? But it's too soon, and there's too much talent on that roster to put a red line through them at this stage. I think, given what you said at the Open, it's wide open in the West. You know.
Yeah.
So to put a line through so much talent, risky.
Risky. I'm not necessarily putting a line through. I'm just selling on this trio actually have been like that being the right decision in the offseason. I think they could have got a handful of other point guards that would have fit the system better, or they could have improved in other areas that would have bolstered the roster to the point where you go, LeBron and AD lead you to a title.
Well, they tried it with Schroeder last year and he stunk it up.
Yeah, but like look at a guy like, I mean, I know it's...
Schroeder and Russ play very similar.
Yeah.
So, like, it was almost like the writing was on the wall. What are we doing here?
It's like, let's get a more expensive Schroeder.
Yeah. Who has, like, a bigger ego. And, yeah.
More talent.
That as well. But, yeah, like, you look at even just in Washington, which is just a funny comparison at this stage of the season, and see what, like, Spencer Dinwiddie's doing there next to Bradley Beal, and things seem just, like, a lot more, like, team-friendly, and they're getting wins and whatnot. And I know
That's who they should have got, Spencer. There you go.
Well, there's just, there were a few moves I thought they could have made before going, let's commit to the Russell Westbrook $40 million.
Let's get the shiniest ornament we can.